Hi everybody, I'm Dan Joseph with MRC-TV. Today I have two very special guests joining us via Skype, and I know that a lot of you have heard of them because they have nearly 700,000 subscribers to their Facebook page, one of the most popular conservative blogs in the country, and a brand new book entitled Right for a Reason, Life, Liberty, and a Crapload of Common Sense. Now this caught my attention because crapload is an interesting description. It's not a word you typically expect to see on the cover of a conservative book. I think you'd probably agree with that. But your motto is conservatism needs a makeover. That's your tagline. So explain that. Explain what the makeover conservatism needs is and how it relates to your new book.
Well, we are not two old white dudes. I don't know.
Clearly.
Look at us, we're not two old white dudes. And we got really sick of seeing just a bunch of old white dudes in the media and being portrayed in the media when people talked about conservatism and the right side of the aisle. So back in 2009, we started our site, chicksontheright.com, to combat that stereotype and the media when they were pushing that down people's throats. And then the book came out of 5.5 years of love and passion and day after day of working on that site.
The site has exploded. I mean, you guys have a huge following on Facebook. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how that translates to the blog itself, but the blog is extremely popular. I expect that this book is going to be extremely popular too. I mean, it's funny, it's engaging, and it's conservative philosophy, but it explains things in a simple way. You don't have to be, I mean, it's intelligent, but you don't have to be some policy wonk to really understand it. And I think that's perfect because I think humor is needed. But now, there's a lot in here. This is not all about women in conservatism, but you are chicks. I mean, and so that's going to be, you know, as a group, as a gender that the conservatives are having a lot of problems with right now, that gives you added credibility, I think, when you talk about politics. So explain how some of the ideas you put forth in this book will help the conservatives better appeal to women voters, and particularly young women voters who they have a specific problem with right now.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that you said that resonates with us is the fact that we use humor in this book, first of all, but we also don't write, like you said, policy wonks. So
Right.
There's a zillion other books out there that you can read, that you can find on the bookshelves that do exactly that. But the problem I think that conservatives have in general, particularly, you know, politicians, is that they don't reach people where they live. They don't talk to people as regular people. They sort of talk over them or talk issues in a way that just doesn't resonate with the regular average person who's just wanting to know how they're going to get their electric bill to go down and how they're going to afford their kids' college, things like that matter to regular families. So that's the whole point of our book, is that we try to appeal to a regular person because that's what we are. Yeah. It's just regular chicks living American life with the same concerns that every middle class and family has. I think that's the point of us as Chicks on the Right, is that we have always remained ourselves, and we've always just talked to people like we talk to each other day to day.
Well, right, and that's so important. I mean, you look at a lot of the candidates, particularly on the presidential side. You had Bill Clinton, you had President Obama now, and they do connect on a very personal level with them, just the way they talk. Our candidates, not so much. I mean, how much do you think, you can say all these things, you can say all these right things, but if you don't have a personality to carry it forward, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and that's a huge problem in that I think that messaging is one of the things that conservatives have sucked the worst at. Yeah. And it's something that we could take a huge lesson from the other side.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, and you know this perfectly well, I'm sure, but when Democrats lie and say, oh, the GOP is going to take away your birth control, that's it with young women, young single women. I mean, it's over with them.
Yeah.
How do you combat that? I mean,
yeah, well, I think part of it is we have to be on the offense, and we are too much on the defense in messaging as the GOP, as conservatives. We wait for them to call the shots. We do that too often. We have to be on the offense more, and that's where we are out there every day, and we're trying to push the messaging as much as possible. I wish that our side of the aisle would take that cue more, and we would be a little bit more pit bull rather than Pomeranian, and do that more often. Get
right
out there in the front row rather than waiting for that message to be served up and then go, okay, well, let's bat it around a little bit. We need need to serve it up more.
Although Mitch McConnell and John Boehner are certainly not nearly as cute as Pomeranians. Look, you do a really good job in this book explaining how some of your personal experiences shaped your conservative views. And there's particularly one segment. It's from the pro-choice to pro-life segment. So Amy, I know that's a story about you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was always pro-choice before, at least I claimed to be pro-choice, or I said I was pro-choice before we started the site. And Miriam was pro-life, and so when we started the site, we would talk about it a lot. Well, we started talking about it more and more, and she would ask me the hard questions. She'd be like, well, are you really pro-choice? Because what does that mean? And when she asked me the tough questions, and she would say, or she would ask me, do you know what that really means to be pro-choice? And I would have to answer that question, and when I really had to answer it, I knew in my heart that I was not pro-choice. I really was pro-life because I knew I would never have an abortion myself. I liked that thought of, freedom and choices, because all my life it had been fed to me that, pro-choice was about freedom, and pro-choice was about having a choice, but it really wasn't about that.
Miriam, what did you say to her?
Well, one of the things I said was, wait until you're pregnant. Yeah, and that was the turning point for me, is when I got pregnant 2 times and I lost 2 pregnancies, and then the third time, the third time that it took, and I have a beautiful, 4.5-year-old girl standing in front of me today, and then I get it. It's like I actually get it now. But I think the biggest part of it was the messaging that had been delivered to me all my life when I was a young girl, and that was pro-choice means freedom, and pro-choice means that you have a choice, and it's, I think it's just, it's given to us in such a package of, it's a good thing. Pro-choice is such a good thing, and pro-life people are freaks. And that's not what it is. That's so not what it is. And now that I know that, and I'm on this side of the aisle, and I get it, I hope that I can convey that message to other young women that are being bombarded with the message that pro-choice is, that's all about freedom and choice. No, that's not what it's about.
Let me ask you this. This may sound like a really weird question. We're hearing this word all over the place recently. There's a big discussion about feminism again. I personally have no idea anymore what feminism is or what it's supposed to be. Nobody can seem to define it. Do you think you're feminist?
I don't usually use the word to describe myself because it's become such a tarnished and almost bastardized word. Yeah. But we've written in the past about sort of taking ownership back of the word feminism, because what it should mean is equality for women and for men. It should, equality regardless of your gender. And what we hate and what we see too often is liberal feminists making themselves such victims, especially in a country like ours, which is rife with opportunity. It's just unbelievable to us that liberal feminists in this country become such victims when we can easily see what other cultures are like towards their women.
Sure.
And so it's a word that we don't use often, but I don't think we're necessarily afraid of it either. We just wish that the definition hadn't been so tarnished by the left. And we wish that it wasn't equated with lady parts, because we feel like that's what it literally is connected with lady parts.
And Lena Dunham's lady parts, which I don't think anybody really wants to discuss in any. Oh yeah, right. Okay, listen. Last question. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
If there's one issue that's the most important thing over the next generation of politics, even the next 2 to 4 years, what is it? You can both chime in on this if you want.
I'd say it's money. It's fiscal. We're broke.
Yeah.
Nobody, not we necessarily, but
I hope you're.
Kid is, when my daughter was born, she was already broke, and she didn't do anything. It's not her fault,
Right.
So I think that we have all these social issues that cloud this big, huge elephant in the room, and that is we are broke, and we have spent all this money, or I'm sorry, these people in Washington.
I didn't spend it.
I didn't do it, but these people have spent
Somebody
more money in Washington, and we have a spending problem, and we've got to get that under control, and it's gonna cause our demise if we don't get it under control. And people lose sight of that because we get so distracted by all these other things.
Right.
But we're broke. We gotta get a hold of that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree, but I would also add to that another thing that's really detrimental to the American way is this whole trend of political correctness. And it's such a cancer. I mean, it so disrupts the way that regular people can even talk to each other now. And so there's all this language manipulation that comes from the left, and this fear of offending people. And I think people just need to be real, they need to be honest, and they need to remember that we've got a First Amendment right.
Yeah, if you're too careful, if you have to be too careful, you can't get your point across the right way. All right, listen, first of all, Right for a Reason, Life, Liberty, and a Crapload of Common Sense, which is exactly what it is. When does it come out? When can viewers buy it?
October 30th.
October
Pre-order,
30th.
Pre-order, then you get to come to an online event on November 12th, which will allow you to do a Q&A with us. It'll be like an online party for all of the folks that have pre-ordered the book prior to the 30th.
And is this going to be in Indianapolis?
It'll be online, so it'll be
okay, cool.
Wherever you just like this.
Online party. And where is the best place for them to purchase it? Will it be on Amazon? Will it be on your site?
It's at all of those places. We have on chicksontheright.com, there's a tab at the top that says book, and that includes links to all of the different retailers that have the book, whether it's in Kindle form or hardcover or audio.
All right. Terrific. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us. The book is excellent. I think everybody is going to love it, and good luck to you. And come back come back soon. All right. We'll talk more once the book has been out there for a while.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so much.